Hello all, it's your girl Tiffany, Madam Luscious Black Beauty, your poetic psychic Pisces, High Priestess, aka the light that shines like a diamond, also known as your modern Zenon, one whom isn't within a coven, a convent, or a covenant. I do thank you all for listening and for watching on tonight. This is going to be another one of my story times with yours truly, poetic psychic Pisces, High Priestess. I do hope you all sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's Poetic Expression Moment story time. This is going to be a short story, guys, so it's not going to be quite as long as some of my other story times that I have done. So I do hope you all enjoy it. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also, you can comment below on what you think about the story. It will be greatly appreciated. I do thank you all in advance. You can always push that thumbs up. That is your free way of showing your support to the channel. Okay? And without any further ado, guys, let's get started. Tonight's Poetic Expression Moment short story time title is Vulnerable Vibrations, Red Wine, and Silent Cries. Introduction. A lonely loner grown and on her own, all alone, single and celibate while engrossed in endless boredom and discontent. Yet somehow, in the midst of her shameful sacred space of intense vulnerability, she graciously found the courage to explore her own erotic curiosities on herself, only to shy away in relentless guilt thereafter due to the occasional temporary pleasure she craved to numb her pain. Feeling sinfully satisfied, the lonely woman cried, wondering if God was unapproving of her actions. The days are long and outdrawn with the same old mundane routine for a lonely simpleton young lady whom unfortunately lives life like a senior citizen. The nights are darkishly boring, which seem to linger on, taunting and haunting the single woman starving for some excitement in her life. While neither an attention or a thrill seeker, little Miss Curiosity occupied her time with meaningful hobbies to stimulate her mind while sipping on her favorite sweet red wine. Something in which she clearly, dearly enjoyed, as each glass caressed her with a soothing yet relaxing sensation. A much-needed comfort to ease the ferocious feelings of vulnerability she felt inside daily. A temporary solution to numb her pain, only to create yet another situation needing to be rectified. Who knew more than a few could have one aroused with no one else around, but indeed it did, and while the wine is a sweet gesture, it was no match for the lack of pleasure. Now perpetual exotic erotic thoughts made the lonely loner ponder and wonder about sexual fantasies and ecstasies she could only imagine. Meanwhile, plagued with her spiritual and religious beliefs and the cautious, unselfish conscience that perhaps the devil had crept in and tempted her to do something ungodly. She's only human, she told herself, as she desperately grasped for rational thoughts while contemplating the consequence of her actions. Epiphany couldn't fathom the thought of disappointing God, so unfortunately her feelings were conflicted. Was Epiphany wrong for the human emotions she felt by being aroused and having the lustful thoughts that turned her on immensely? How could she begin to even have that conversation with the Most High God? Epiphany didn't know it, but in the heat of the moment, her being extremely turned on and uncontrollably horny kind of seemed to take over her mind, her body, her feelings, thoughts, sensations, and emotions. So she just embraced the idea of enjoying this pleasurable experience fully. By now, Epiphany had graciously finished her third glass of wine, and the evening hour was at the stroke of 6. The lighting in her home was dim, as candles lit every room with the fragrance of lavender scent. Epiphany poured yet another glass of wine, as she now was in the mood of listening to her favorite tunes. So she turned to her stereo to play Tweet's Oops, Oh My song, which seemed to be all too fitting for the current moment Epiphany found herself in. As the song played on repeat, Epiphany retreated to her luxurious bathroom to run her a relaxing bubble bath, which included essential oils, pink rose petals, bath salts, and healing herbs. Pink and white candles aligned the edge of the whirlpool tub, along with a tray of fruit and a fresh bottle of sweet red wine. In addition to Epiphany's sacred pink and leopard vibrator, she kept hidden away for special occasions like the present moment. Now, at the brink of a random tradition for Epiphany to spoil and pamper herself, she began to slowly undress while admiring her reflection in the mirror. Who knew a person could be attracted to themselves and fall in love with one's own essence? But that is surely how Epiphany felt. As she entered her soothing bath, sinking herself deep into the pit of the tub, as the bubbles covered the entirety of her nude body. A lustful, delightful, auto-romantic, erotic experience. Explicit, pleasurable thoughts lingered in Epiphany's mind as she closed her eyes and immensely enjoyed her blissful moment. Unable to control herself from caressing the entirety of her body underwater, yet pausing from time to time for a sip of wine or luscious, juicy, sweet treats while pacing herself before reaching that ultimate climax she craved so intensely. Epiphany's breasts were tender, nipples ripe and hard. Although only having semi-small, perky boobs, her breasts were her greatest turn on. Just a slight rub and brief tug as the water and bubbles rippled down her chest sent a stimulating surge of a tingle to her vagina, which by now felt like it had a heartbeat as her clit began to thrust and throb. With one hand yet and still caressing her breast, her other hand wandered below down to her waist, and ironically enough, although submerged in water, Epiphany's pussy was soaking wet with her own fluids trickling from her own body, something that seemingly turned Epiphany on even more. With every rub-a-dub-dub in the tub, her erect clitoris, the thoughts of imagining herself being orally satisfied by an imaginary lover took over her mind completely. Soft moans filled the fragrant air surrounding Epiphany as she grew closer and closer to a blossoming climax. It didn't take much to reach her peak. After all, she had so much sexual tension built up from not having a lover or being pleased on a regular basis. Even though Epiphany had a strategy to make herself come fast to get it over and done with quickly in the past, but in these desperate moments, she wasn't done yet, and she vowed tonight to make the most of this randomly occasional self-love session. It was one of those once-in-a-blue-moon necessities where she would push her body to the limit out of curiosity. A much-needed climax was wonderful, but Epiphany wanted something she never had before. She had never experienced an orgasm or an overwhelming peak to the point of skeeting before, and it's something she desired immensely. So after briefly coming for the first time, Epiphany was determined to enjoy herself further. After quenching her thirst with yet another glass of wine, Epiphany's vibrator seemed to be calling her name, which right about now was the sparkle of her eye as she reached for her vibrating lover. Luckily, it was waterproof, so she didn't need to get out of the tub to continue making love to herself. Time seems to fly when you're having fun, and by now, Epiphany had been in her pleasurable bath for 30 minutes or more, while taking her time and bracing herself for her next sexual endeavor. Epiphany's pussy thrust and throbbed and yearned for more. With her love-making tunes playing softly in the background, Epiphany changed her flat-screen TV in her bathroom from calming sceneries of the beach, ocean views, and exotic islands to a soft porn movie she was saving for a moment such as the present one. The best kind of porn, in her opinion, that was ever created, which displayed sensual, exotic, erotic, intimate encounters, not the raunchy, raw, hardcore stuff. Nevertheless, after starting her movie, the sexual tension was unbearable. With her pink and leopard vibrator in hand, Epiphany began to masturbate again, imagining herself being a part of the sensual sexual encounters she was watching. Epiphany felt so vulnerable with every sensation vibrating through her body, so much so she had the urge to do things to herself she had never fathomed before. Epiphany's moans rang out louder and louder in unison with the beautiful woman and her partner on the screen in the movie she was watching. Shying away from the fact she was ashamed that she was aroused by them both. With her clitoris now ultra-sensitive from coming over and over again, a stream of tears began to roll down her face just as she felt herself reaching an orgasmic climax. Unable to stop herself, Epiphany's body went into a tantrum that felt like uncontrollable convulsions as she penetrated herself for the very first time. Back and forth, in and out, Epiphany's moans and cries collided into an explosive emotion she had never felt before. Although pleased to the fullest and feeling good, for some reason Epiphany was riddled with guilt when it was all over. Was she not supposed to have these feelings, sensations, or pleasure? Was it the heartbreak of being alone, unloved, and unwanted? Or perhaps the result of instant karma by God for living her life in sin and the pressure to repent immediately? Epiphany didn't quite know, but she felt empty as she stepped out of the tub, draining her water and cutting the music and movie that only moments before had her in depth of blissful pleasure. She left her vibrator behind, grabbed her wine and fruit tray, and relocated to her room. After a pitiful nightcap, Epiphany lay across her bed, and although confusion and loneliness plagued her, Epiphany felt a relief in her release and cleansed as well from the experience of the whole ordeal. Epiphany never claimed to be perfect, but pleasing herself couldn't be as bad as being promiscuous. So how could she possibly be wrong by this? Regardless, she asked for forgiveness anyway, just in case. Then she lay there feeling oddly satisfied as she quietly cried herself to sleep. The end.